Good morning, Morai v'Rabotai, Bruchim Abayim. We are continuing on Masechet Succah. We are on Daf Dalit, Amud Aleph, 15 lines down from the top of the Amud. Today's Amud is being learned as a Zchut, Refuah Shelema, for a girl in our community that you all have been davening for. We all have been davening for. She have Refuah Shelema Be'ezrat Hashem, Esther Bracha Bat Chaya, who I think has one surgery still left. Should be a refuah for her, and also has been dedicated for Aliyat Neshama of Shlomo ben Yitzchak Chaim by the Farivar family, by Rosen family, for safety of the Chayalim, of the soldiers in the current war, and the safe return of them to their houses, and the remaining hostages to their families, Be'ezrat Hashem. The Amud Yomi has been also sponsored by Dr. Yoram Nasir in memory of Avraham ben Yehuda, and for Refuah Shelema of Sharon ben Rivka. This month's learning to the community has been graciously dedicated by the Dayan family, by Cohen family, by Shei family. Should be an ultimate zchut for all their mishpachot, Be'ezrat Hashem. And last but not least, our learning should be dedicated for Refuah Shelema of Rachel Simcha Bat Nahit, that should have full recovery. Refuah Shelema Be'ezrat Hashem. Amen. So, we started some very interesting Piskei Halacha that are taught in the Beit Midrash of Rav Ashi, and are exotic sukkah cases, basically. A lot of interesting leniencies. Somebody in East Coast actually created a sukkah trying to use every leniency that there is in the book, and it doesn't look like a sukkah really. You would think that this is for sure pasul lemehadrin min hamehadrin mamash, and every single detail was cheshbon out. You needed like a shiur walkthrough of this sukkah, and we will see a lot of very surprising leniencies that will be discussed in our sugya. Now, we all know that you need three walls, three halachic walls, we should say, for sukkah and eschach. Now, the height has to be less than 20 amot, more than 10 tfachim, and the walls have to be walls. Now, that sounds pretty simple, right? But once you start creating cases that are not the norm, then you have to ask yourself, how about this? How about that? And we started this asking, what if I have a sukkah that's pasul? Now, the schach is great, but it is taller than 20 amot, so the sukkah is pasul. Nothing to talk about, right? Not talking about where the Chachamim and Rabbi Yehuda agree. We're not talking about Shitat Rabbi Yehuda. It's pasul. Now, how do I kosherize this pasul sukkah? So Mar said, how about if I make a istaba? We spoke about lowering the ceiling. We spoke about raising the ground level by mattresses or by dirt or by straw. We spoke about all of those. Now, how about if I make an actual istaba? I built a platform, but the sukkah is big, so I build a platform, partial platform, in my sukkah. Now, on top of the platform, I have 7 tfachim by 7 tfachim. So it is the minimum shiur of sukkah. And above my head is a kasher schach. So is that kasher or not? So the Gemara said, well, depends. If you have this itztaba, if you have this platform in the very back of sukkah, which is surrounded by the back wall and the side walls, then you're good, because the itztaba itself, the platform itself, has 3 walls. Hazaku Baruch, right? But if you build this itztaba, and we have someone graciously actually did some artwork over here. So for those who haven't seen it, this would be the case 1, right? You have the 3 walls. Your platform is in the very back wall. So the platform itself has 1, 2, 3 walls. You're good. That's pashut, right? Given the platform has 7 by 7 area, that it's kasher sukkah, and now you're no longer 20 amot away from the schach, right? The schach of this area is less than 20 amot away. So even though that the rest of the sukkah is pasul because the schach is too tall, over here would be kasher. That's pashut, right? Now, the second case of and that's what we started discussing yesterday, right? So let's read through it, and then we'll see the case 2 and 3 as well. Says the Gemara, if you built the platform against the middle wall, al perekula, and it covers wall to wall, side to side, v'yesh ba'echsher sukkah, it has enough to be a kosher sukkah area, which means the platform itself is at least 7 tfachim by 7 tfachim wide. Says the Gemara, keshera, that's kasher. So that's pashut. Umin hatzad, but if you made the grave mistake of building this platform on the side, like scenario number 2 over here, so you would right away jump in and say that's pasul. Why is it pasul? Because you have only 1 and 2 walls. Where's your third wall? The third wall, you have to go inside this. This is a pasul sukkah, this area. So where is my hechsher sukkah, third wall? Says the Gemara, well, not so fast. It depends. Umin hatzad, im yesh misfat ha'itzdeva lekotel dalet, if you have from the edge, the inner edge of the platform until the wall, you have 4 amot, about 6 feet of area, then it's pasul. Because then this wall is irrelevant. That's not a wall that could serve as your sukkah wall. Then it's irrelevant. But if this area is less than 4 amot, then what have you got? You have got 1 wall, 2 walls, and this, there is a halacha Moshe Sinai. There's a concept from the Torah itself. It's recognized that when you have a wall that's kasher, this wall is kasher. The problem is, well, meaning it's a wall. That's what I'm saying, right? It's not kasher because it's too tall. That's the problem. But because you have a wall and you have on top of it, above 20 amot, you have a schach. So we watch this, halachically, we imagine it as a curved wall, that it comes curved, less than 4 amot, allows me to imagine that this is curved to this edge. So even though that this is 5 feet away, this is considered the wall that is here. Now can you imagine, nowadays you have hundreds of examples of this. When you have a sukkah in a balcony and you have an awning of a little bit, so that's area that's pasul, but you want to use the wall of your house going into the backyard or into the balcony as one of the 3 walls. So if it's left, the awning is less than dalet amot, you have the allowance of imagining that this is a dofen akuma, and a slanted, curved wall, and that's kasher. So of course that's a bigger chiddush. But for all those who have learned Eruvin and Shabbat, this is a concept that comes up all the time. So we know there's a concept called dofan akuma, right? This is a world-class concept, right? Some of the Shas concept, you're going to learn it, you're going to know it for life. So Gemara says, well, you're going to teach, you're teaching me with this that dofan akuma exists. I know dofan akuma exists, right? It's not a chidush, right? In the Mishnayot we have it, says the Gemara, if it's pachot me'arba amot keshera, if this is less than 4 amot, is kasher the sukkah. And the Gemara asks right away, ma kamashmalan, the amrin and dofan akuma. What your chidush to me is that we say dofan akuma. That's all you're teaching me. Tanina, we know it already. Bayit shenifchat, right? We have this concept already mentioned to us in the Tanaic works. We know it. If you have a house, then you have a room, regular room, and the ceiling came down, right? So imagine a small bedroom, and the entire ceiling, or the middle of the ceiling, came down. You're in the middle of renovations and whatnot, and you're like, hey, Jay, we could actually make this a sukkah. Like those open to shamayim, put some woods, put some leaves, right? Hazak, can that be a sukkah? So we learned that that could be a sukkah, provided that from each side, the wall to the area that has been destroyed in the ceiling is less than 4 amot. So in other words, even though that you have some ceiling on the sides left, given that each side from the ceiling that's left to the wall is less than 4 amot, you're good. Why? Because dofan akuma. We look at the dofan extending there, this dofan extending there, this dofan extending here, and this one extending there, and therefore you have all the walls are kasher, chazak ubaruch, right? Many of the people, again, as we mentioned this before, you saw this this Israeli soldier that in Chag Sukkot 3 weeks ago made such a thing exactly. Like, there was a wall, the corner walls of a house that was destroyed, and there was some of the ceiling left, and he put schach on top of it, and he made a third wall, and he sat there, right? And he is using this concept of dofan akuma, right? The walls were kasher because the less than 4 amot of the walls. So says the Gemara, Tanina, bayit shenifchat v'sichich al gabav, a room that the ceiling came down, and now you made schach on top of it. Im yesh min hakotel, if from the wall, lesichuch, to the ceiling of to the schach of sukkah, is dalet amot. If there is dalet amot from the wall to the schach, it's pasul, because you don't have a wall. You can't consider the wall a wall of sukkah. But if it's less than dalet amot, less than around 6 feet, hapachod mikan kashera. So there we go. We have this concept of dofan akuma already taught us. So what's your chidush? By this case of the istaba, what are you teaching? I know the concept of dofan akuma. Mar says, no. You don't realize. There is a massive chidush over here. Because I would have thought, if I only had that case of the house, that the ceiling came down, I would have thought, the hatam hu de chazia de dofan, because there the wall is a kosher wall. Right? The wall is nice, solid, and it's not too tall. It's considered a quote-unquote kosher sukkah wall. Right? Over here, is your wall a kosher sukkah wall? Not really, because it is a sukkah. It's pasul a sukkah because it's higher than 20 amot. Right? And the chiddush is, even though that my wall is higher than 20 amot and it's quote-unquote a pasul wall, I could still use it as a wall by dofan akuma, and I have the istava that's less than 20 amot tall to the schach, and therefore now I have 1, 2, and 3 walls, and my sukkah is kasher. That's the chidush. Aval hachat de lo chazia le dofan ema lo, I would have thought maybe not, and therefore kamash malan. Now the Gemara says a third scenario, which is similar but different. Again, you have a sukkah, a large sukkah, that is pasul, because the schach is higher than 20 amot. Okay? Ubana istava, and you, again, the third scenario of making a platform in the middle of your sukkah, but here, in this case, literally you made it in the middle. You built a platform in the middle, like this case, the scenario number 3 in the picture over here. You have your large sukkah and your big platform. The platform is not against any of the walls. There are 3 walls around it, but they're each one separate from the platform. Is that kasher or is that not kasher? So says the Gemara, Im yesh mitzvat itztava veledofan arba amot. If each one of these spaces that you have from the corner of the platform to the wall of the sukkah, you have 4 amot, then it's pasul. Because you can't consider the walls of sukkah, it's too far. But if it's less than 4 amot, each side is 5 feet away, then it's kasher. Pachot ma'arba amot, keshera. The sukkah is kasher. The Gemara says, wait a second, what's the chiddush in this one? You just told me this whole spiel about dofar hakuma, 4 amot. Ma kamashmalan. Dofar hakuma, that's what you're teaching me? That we say, of course I know we say dofar hakuma. Says Gemara, Hainuhach, it's the same thing. It's mamash, an identical scenario. Gemara says, no, it's not identical, because this dofar hakuma business is a chiddush, right? It's an imaginary wall, so to speak. It's there, yeah, it's a chiddush wall. So ma'udetema, I would have thought you could use the dofar hakuma once. I mean, how much chutzpah do you have to use like this imagine? Can I use it twice and 3 times? And the chiddush is, yeah, you can use it for all the walls of sukkah. You can have dofar hakuma. Meruach achat amrinan aval kol ruach veruach lo kamashmalan. Imagine again, even though that we had in the Tanina the house that the ceiling came down. But again, that's kosher less than 20 amot walls. Here you have a double chidush, that even though that each one of these walls are a puzzle for sukkah wall, they're walls, but they're puzzles for sukkah because they're too tall, you could use the combo of a tall puzzle, tall wall, and dofar hakuma, not once, but twice and 3 times. That's like a compounded chidush. And therefore, that's what it's teaching me. That I could use it without limits. I could use all 3 walls that are using dofar hakuma, even though that the dofar is higher than 20 amot. Fine. Says the Gemara, Avar kol ruach veruach lo, I may have thought that you can't use it for all the sides, all the walls of sukkah. Kamash malan, that's what's teaching me that I could do it. Now says the Gemara, how about the reverse case, right? How about the reverse case? You know, in the war, they actually were cases that they could not have visibility to the enemy, and they put a very, very shallow sukkah, and instead of having the minimum height of 10 tfachim, which is about 39, 40 inches tall, instead of having it sticking out, they had a very thing that you could crawl in, but there was a ditch. Right? There's a ditch, they dug a ditch, and then he went inside. Then from far you don't have much visibility, right? You could probably even use it shooting at the thing, whatever, right? But that's the sukkah. Is that kasher or not? Now, so of course we know the sukkah that's inside the ground, it's kasher. But here you have a problem. You have your sukkah. Imagine if this would be, we could imagine this, right? Imagine this is your sukkah, but this, instead of being a platform, is a ditch inside the ground, right? So the rest is pasul because it's less than 10 tfachim high, but inside the ditch, you have 10 tfachim to the ceiling of the sukkah. Kasher or pasul? Well, you have difference here, a gap to the walls, right? The ditch itself is not 10 tfachim. The ditch, let's imagine, is 7 tfachim deep. So you need this wall that's sticking out of the ground for 3-4 tfachim to add to the 7 tfachim of the ditch to be 10 tfachim high. So can I combine this wall and this wall together when it's deep in? So the Gemara says, here there's no 4 amot at all. No, nothing even close to 4 amot. 6 feet, forget about that. Says the Gemara, less than 3 tfachim. Right? Less than 3 tfachim, then it's kasher. But if anything more than 3 tfachim, is pasul. Haita pchuta miyut tfachim, so read it inside. V'chakakba, you dug inside a ditch, kedei la'ashlima, to make it up to 10, las im yesh misfat chakak ul kotel. If you have from the edge of this ditch to the kotel, to the wall, gimel tfachim, only 3 tfachim even, the whole thing is pasul. If it's less than 3 tfachim, it's kasher. Now this is another, even more known concept, Halacha Moshe Misinai. Also, again, Shiurin Chasitzin Umechisin Halacha Moshe Misinai. One of the things that are considered Halacha Moshe Misinai is what's considered a mechitza, what's considered a wall, what is considered the shiurim that you need. All Halacha Moshe Misinai. So there is a concept which is used countless times in Shas, is the concept of lavud. We're going to have it over and over again in our Masechta also. That anything less than 3 tfachim is considered attached. We'll get to this in the halachot of walls of Sukkah, the halachot of Schach. Many times we're going to be using this. Anything that's less than 3 tfachim apart is considered attached. So therefore, if the wall of this ditch going down into the ground and the wall that's sticking above the ground, they are less than 3 tfachim apart. This is going down, this is going up, and they're less than 3 tfachim apart. We consider them being one wall, one attached wall, 10 tfachim, kasher. If it's even a mashu, more than 3 tfachim away, this is its own thing, this is its own thing, you don't have a wall, and it's pasul. Wait a second. Why is this different than the other one that going up? You say it's 4 amot, and here is 3 tfachim. Rahmanut. Why is the difference? Says the Gemara. What's the difference that there you said the amrat pachot ma'arba amot, that anything less than 4 amot, 6 feet is good enough, but over here the amrat pachot mishloshat tfachim, and here you only say less than 3 tfachim. Now listen well, Rabotai, this is a super important concept. Anything across Shas, anything that is less than 10 tfachim is not considered a wall. It's not a wall. In Hilchot Shabbat, you need a wall to make Reshut HaRabim to Reshut HaYachid, to make a mechitza. 9 tfachim, nothing. Garnish, so considered nothing. It's not a wall. In Hilchot Eruvin, you need a wall, not considered a wall. In Hilchot Sukkah, you need 3 walls, not considered a wall. Anything less than 10 tfachim is not considered a wall. Above 20 amot is a wall. It may not be kasher for Sukkah for one of the 3 reasons that we mentioned in Daf Bed Amud Aleph, right? Machloket Amuraim, but it's a wall. For Hilchot Shabbat, it's considered a wall if it's higher than 20 amot. For Hilchot Eruvin, it's considered, for all the halachot all across, it's a wall. The question is, can you use that wall for Sukkah? That's the question. But less than 10 tfachim is not even considered a wall. And therefore, I need a wall. And the wall has to be attached to be considered a wall. So you need less than lavud, less than 3 tfachim, to be able to bridge this gap halachically and consider it one continuous wall that is at least 10 tfachim. And therefore you cannot use this creative concept of 4 amot and so on and so on, because you have to start with a wall first. And for a wall, these 2 have to be together, and we could swallow a gap less than 3 tfachim, but anything more than that is going to be a problem. So it says, the Gemara, let's read it inside. Hatam, the 4th line, the ite le dofan, there that we have a dofan, a wall, it's good, it's a good wall, pachot ma'arba amot. You could look at it as a curved wall now, as long as it is less than 4 amot. It's sagya. Hacha, here, le shavuya le dofan, here we need to create a wall. We don't have a wall yet. And therefore, in order to consider this a wall, in order to make it a wall, it has to be pachot mishloshat tfachim, has to be a continuous wall, and continuous cannot have a gap more than 3 tefachim. So therefore, pachot mishloshat tefachim in ilo lo. If it's less than 3 tefachim, this gap between the ditch and the wall of the sukkah, less than 3 tefachim, it's good. Anything more than that is going to be a problem. Now says the Gemara, Another scenario. So we did 3 scenarios today so far. 4 scenarios so far. Another one. If this was a sukkah, again, we have a sukkah that's pasul because it's too tall. It's higher than 20 amud. Same scenario. Ubana ba amud shehu gavoa ha'asarat tefachim. Right? So you made, and this is more than 4, right? This scenario, this very scenario. Exactly this scenario. You have more than 4 amot from the itztava to the wall, right? Each one says pasul, right? You can't use, these walls are gone. These walls you cannot use. But there is a kasher schach on top, and what you did was, you built this platform, but this platform is a very tall platform. It's asarat tfachim tall. It's 10 tfachim high, the platform, right? And from the top of the platform to the ceiling is less than 20 amot. Right? Is that kasher or not? What's the question? You have walls. Oh, you do. Maybe you do. Because we mentioned just a minute ago that if you have a wall that is 10 tfachim, it's considered a mechitza. So guess what? I have 4 walls because the height of the itztava, the height of this platform is 10 tfachim. So each side of it has a wall already, right? Oh, we have a concept. Again, this daf is packed with Shas-wide concepts. We have a concept in Shas of good asik. That if you have a wall, the halacha looks at that wall that goes up to Shamayim. For instance, in the Chot Shabbat or Eruvin, if you have a wall that's 10 tfachim high, another wall 10 tfachim, another wall 10 tfachim, another wall 10 tfachim, it's a short box, right? It's this tall, a box, and it has enough surface. That's considered Reshut HaYachid, Bokeya Ad Lerakia. This Reshut HaYachid goes up to Shamayim. There's imaginary halachic walls continuing these walls up to Shamayim, no end. It's a concept of good asik. You take it up. You continue a wall up. So says the Gemara, I have a wall here, right? This istaba, this platform, has literally 4 walls. The only difference between this and the Reshut HaYachid I just said is it has also a thing on top. It's a box with 4 walls of asarat tefachim. Why can't I just say good asik? It goes up. And if it goes up, then on top I have what? Schach. Oh, a kosher sukkah. Amazing, right? Because I should be using these imaginary walls. What's the difference? Good asik, mechitzata. Says the Gemara, Savar Abaye actually thought that this is kasher. He was so excited. He said, I found this lomdish sukkah that's kasher because I could use the walls. Al pi halacha, I should be using the walls. Savar Abaye lememar. He thought to say, good asik mechitzata. Pull up, continue upwards the mechitzot, and you'll be kasher. Amar le Rava. Rava said, no, not too fast. You're correct. We have a concept of good asik mechitzata. Normally speaking, and we will see this time and again in our Masechta, that we will use this imaginary wall. Once you have 10 tfachim wall, we imagine it going up. We do. But here there's a problem. Ba'inan mechitzot hanikarot veleka. Here we would need mechitzot hanikarot. You need clear walls. If you would not have the surface on top, you would have a box, so each one of them is a wall. You see a hole inside. You see an area inside of this. So those walls, of course, go. But here you made a itztava. You made a platform. Nobody looks at the platform and say, "Oh, walls," right? It's a box you put in there. So it's not mechitzot nikarot, quote unquote. It's not clear walls, and therefore you cannot say good asik in that, says the Gemara, and that will be an opening to the next fascinating example of the Gemara, which would be even more crazy, and it would be actually maybe a halacha that you're on top of your roof of the house, and you just put a skeleton of a sukkah. That means you put 4 poles up, and you hang a schach on top of it. There's nothing there, no walls. And that may be a kasher sukkah actually, says the Gemara, based on this good asik mechitzata, which we'll discuss B'ezrat Hashem in the next year. Chazak Baruch.